Sorry about that. Turn the recording back on. So, you know, I don't know exactly what it's to be or how you're supposed to do that. And what are these little diamond shaped things?
They're in the legend. They're points that are unmarked.
Oh, I see. Okay, good.
Yeah.
Do
Let's just focus on this thing and get this done.
Yep. Okay. Well, I mean, let's talk about how it gets down there, and I'll let you decide on that 30 by 100. If you need to do that, you might need to include that in your table or whatever.
Right.
So what excuse me, what the way you would do this in terms of a table, again, it's an annotation. So you would go to your annotate menu, and this can either be done through auto annotation. There's a setting in there to send these things to tables, or you could also do it probably with some
about that line curve table down there.
Yeah, that sets up your defaults on it, and that would also see that set your defaults, define your header, what columns you're going to use, where you're going to put it on the within the drawing. And then this creates a curve table, this creates a line table. Of course, you can edit those once you've done it. You can split it so you can position it twice. And the reason you have these settings here in this position and the ability to edit those positions and to split is because once you have created that table and placed it in the drawing, as long as you have under your drawings, sorry, not drawing setups, but your configure in your general settings, when you have this link, excuse me, link labels with line work is on, then if you should happen to change this line that had been defined into that table, then it will go to the table and repopulate that table with the new values. Just like just like when you're doing a bearing around a property. So we need an entity to measure, or we may be able, let me see if we can do that. Now see, this will do a line table. And there you go. So you could either select a line or you select by points, in which case you could do, say, corner, end point to intersection. And then you would go intersection to end, and then you pick that. Or you could draw a line, just, draw a figure from that corner down here. So just basically recreate that, because this is made out of two different entities. And then we create that based on doing an auto annotation. Now, here's the difference too, is when you do this with your line and curve table, and you notice you've got two commands here. You've got a curve table and you've got a line table. So when you say line table, and if you were to pick this, it would not designate the curves. That goes over in a separate table.
Okay.
But if you do an auto annotate and you choose that, then it puts, you know, like L1, L2, C1, L1. So it puts it in a single combined table, which, you know, you can do all that. Excuse me, you can do that manually if you do it with that line and curve table. It's just that you have to do that twice. You have to do the curve table, you have to do the line table, and then you would put them together. Okay. So the easiest way is to define what it is we're going to be annotating from one point to the other. Okay.
Okay.
And then what we'll do is we'll use that to annotate that structure, but we don't want to plot that item. You see, because we want the property line to still be the property line, and we want the line of the curve or the line of the center line to still be the center line. We don't want to have a third line in there, even though we're going to create one to make it easier to annotate, but we won't plot it when we get there. We will plot the calls, of course. So let's go about doing that. Now we're going to probably then want to put that bearing and distance on the property. We might want to put that up on the outside. Well, either one. Either we put that bearing and distance on the other side of that property line, and then define the center line all on the inside of the property, or you could, you know, do that first one down either way.
I just noticed those zeros there. They shouldn't be there.
Okay, those look like elevations.
Yeah, they are.
Okay, so you can just double click inside the viewport so that you're in there. And now if you're double clicked in there, which it looks like you are, yeah, because it says M, it says down there on the bottom, M final plat at the status line. So now you just want to freeze that layer. So you can either do that by freeze layer by pick, or you could go to, if you know what the layer is, you could turn it off.
I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
So
Do that. Yeah.
Layer
Correct.
by pick.
Yep. There you go.
Okay.
And now hit enter to finish that command, and it'll fix that. Okay. And you probably at some point want to put your property line to the background so that your points look like they're sitting on top if you're using wipeouts. But yeah.
Let me,
there you go. There you go. All right, so those square points must not be done with those wipeouts. But anyway, that's a cosmetic thing. We'll don't need to spend a lot of our time together on that one.
right.
So let's get this part done. So let's go back to the model space. Well, go back to that other one. Go back to now you're still in model space. So go down to the status bar, or yeah, there you go. Just zoom outside of it and then double click outside of it, just so that you keep it in paper space while you're here.
Oh,
yeah, just there you go, like that. Yeah. And there, you don't really have to do that, but sometimes it causes some issues. So yeah, now let's go to the model tab. And let's zoom in up there, and we'll create our little feature. Now we want to create this line that we're going to annotate. We want to create it on a separate layer so that we can freeze that layer in the viewport, but we'll leave it thawed in model space. Okay.
Okay.
There you go.
What would we call it?
AT&T. Yeah, access-CL or ATTCL, any of that kind of stuff. Yeah. So you know that it's the center line. There you go. And I'd give it a color that, you know, that'll stand out against whatever else you're working on, like either yellow or red or something. So you know when you're talking about that one feature, there you go. And no need to worry about a line type or any of that, because yeah, and you're either gonna now what you would want to do is over there, you could either do it one of two ways. You could go over to that print column right here and uncheck it, just like viewports is, or you could go ahead and leave it checked, and then when you're over in the layout tab, you would double click inside the viewport, and at that point you get that second column or the second set of columns in which it has a viewport print, and you could turn it off there. So either way is just fine.
Okay, well,
okay.
That way I won't forget it.
That way you won't worry about it. That's right. So now, and remember, we're going to, yeah, go ahead and make it current. It's fine. All right. Now we're going to draw a 2D polyline. And you've got the current, there you go. And we'll say, okay, I'm going to start up there at the corner of the property. So make sure you just snap to the endpoint of that line.
You mean this corner?
You're correct. So now as you move the mouse down, you see it's rubber banded. So it's asking for another point. Now the point we're going to go to is to the intersection of, so we need to snap to the intersection. Looks like you have it on. Okay, so just click that. And then come on down and you'll find the end point of that. Okay. Now you could stop and right here put in a curve and try to figure all that stuff out, but I'll show you a little trick here with polylines. Since we know it is an arc that we're tracing over, we can use that to our advantage here in just a second. So just skip right straight ahead to the PT. There you go. And yes, it is a line segment, but we're going to fix that in just a second. So now you're going to take that down either to the endpoint or the intersection or whatever it, wherever it defines it. Okay, when you're done, we hit enter. Now zoom in up to that curve. Select the red one, and you see that little grip. You're going to hover, convert to arc. And now I want you to, so snap to the midpoint of that arced piece of that white line. If it is a, is that an arc or is it 2 points?
No, it's an arc.
Okay, so here, let's, no, escape a minute. Just escape it. No, yeah, zoom back to it like you were. Now do a regen all. We weren't able to really snap to something. Okay, now hover, convert to arc, and then when it floats around, you want to snap to the midpoint of that white arc. So you may need to go up and grab your midpoint snap.
Okay, which one is the midpoint snap?
No, you almost have to go back right there. So grab that, find that there, click. Now yours is exactly where that one was. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So that's the entity that we want to annotate.
Okay.
All right. So let's go to the auto annotate, or go to the annotate menus and first choose annotate defaults. And let's make sure we've got, now right now it's going to use that 0.1 inches for your text. So that's possibly fine. Let's see what else. And if you choose the angle, and let's see here, does it have anything to do with these tables at this point? I don't think so. But you see the layer name there, it says meets and bounds. So that's where, as long as those things are okay, then that's what we'll use.
Okay.
Same thing for distance. And let's look at arc for a minute for the last one. So L equals, okay, I think that's all fine. So we'll say okay to that at the bottom. And then if we go to annotate and choose auto annotate. Okay, now here is where on lines and arcs, where you would normally set, you know, the size of the or, you know, which side of the figure that you're going to place the bearing and the distance, etc. And you see down about, keep coming down where it says use line tables. See right there. So right now it's set to never. So it would always do, there you go. So if you had set it to be by scalar, then it looks at the figure you're trying to annotate and it figures out how large of a label it's going to create. And if that label is larger than that certain distance, then it goes to a table. Otherwise it prints it on the figure like you're looking at them now. Okay. So if we say always, it's going to make a table for that figure all the way down from the start to the end. And that's possibly what we want. Let's scoot that dialogue out of the way a little bit so we can look underneath it. Just, yeah, drag it to the side. There you go. Yeah, if we, and I'll leave that up to you, because if we do it, say always, it's going to make even those long distances from the corner down and from the PT down to the end of it, even that's going to say, you know, it's going to say an L1, then L2, C1, and L3. And that may be just fine. I think that would probably be the most concise. We will have the least amount of congestion.
Okay.
So that's what our always is going to be. All right. So I think that's all we'll need for the lines. Yes, you need to also do it on the arcs. And it says down below the same, about in the same spot, use curve table. We'll set that one to always as well. Okay. Now we say, okay.
We want to look at the stacked, any of these?
No, the stacked labels, that's if you're, you know, doing if you're labeling the arc along the side, you know, with a leader pointing to it and it stacks all the curve features up. So,
okay, so, okay.
Yes, sir. Now, very carefully, let's read our prompt. This is select entities. The line above says select the lines, arcs, and polylines to annotate. So we're going to select that red line. Yep. Okay. And now tells us we have one entity in our selection set. Select entities. Well, we're done selecting, so we hit enter. And now it's asking us for a starting point or a point number of the line table. Now that means it's going to be like the upper left-hand corner of the table. So we're going to go off to the side somewhere or down in that triangular area underneath it, wherever we're going to put it. Yeah, and make sure that wherever you're going to put it, that it's going to show up in our paper space, you know, within our viewport. It can be off to the side as long as it shows in our viewport, though. That's what we want to make sure.
Should I look at the final plat again to make sure?
Well, I think that's going to interrupt the command. Okay. Or here's something else you could do as well. You could just go over well off to the side somewhere. Yeah, that would be completely out of the viewport, and we'll make a separate viewport for the table. Okay, so there you got it. Now, it wants to know the starting point or point number of the curve table, because you see that's what's coming next. So you could go over to the side of that one and click, you know, right on the yeah, just I would, you could come right to the corner and snap to that corner where it says distance up to the top. I think you need to get right there. Yeah, so you could do that. And if you click that, so that's made your curve table. Now that's finished. You've got two tables, and we can merge those if we need. Now, if we look at that, we've got an L1, L2, then C1, and then L3. But, is the order in which they go. Okay, but this is now, what this, this would, let me see here. I've got this one, even though this is a single table, you see, when I select those. And so I could put those up, or I could merge these two together. And there's several ways we might want to do that. If we did that again, if we choose this again, I want to select this one. And notice it cleared that out because it's resetting it. So if I start this one here, that starts the line table. Now it goes to the next time it needs to use one of them. And so if we wanted those to be in order, I just click it like that, except you see what it did there? So it,
Yeah, except it doesn't work.
Yeah, so that one didn't work either. So now let's try this one more time. So if I do, let's do this again. We'll try this again. And I'm going to go down here. Notice this is getting, I need to come back to here and reset these to starting table 1, starting curve table 1. Oops, not 31. Display first row with the table reference. Okay, so I guess we're going to need to keep them separately. Would be the easiest. All right, so let's come over to here. We'll set the line there, and I'm going to come here and I'm going to just hover and then go off to the side so it's understood to be separate. There we go. I think that'll fix this better. And we could, now we have L1, L2, and so you can reposition that. Like you could bring that down to the inside, put this bearing and distance on the outside, just pull that back off that line. And see, here's your L3, right there. So however best you would, like I said, these are at this point just text. So you could, just simply reposition it like that. Now, back here in our final plat, now notice it doesn't show up, but you want it to be somewhere like, maybe you'll put it up here or down in here, or even, well, there's not enough room up here.
I think up in the left is the best place for it.
Where's that?
Up by the location map.
A location map. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So there's a couple of things. You can go to model space and reposition it up there and see how it goes. You could make another viewport inside of here. Which is doable. It's a little bit difficult to double click inside and outside of it if that viewport is totally within inside this viewport. So that might be.
drag it over then.
Okay, so let's go. I'll go let you go back to model space and just select that and push it over there, or select it and move it. I mean,
Select
just,
both of
yeah,
them.
yeah, might as well. And then let's see if we can get it over there. All right. And let's see where that, now go back to paper space and see how that positions. All right, so now back to model space. And we might need to stack those instead of side by side. So yeah, take that one and move it from there up to there. Okay, and now go back to one more time and scoot them both over to the right a bit.
Oops, I think I went back to where it was.
Yep.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah, something happened in the clicking. Yeah, I see what happened. Go ahead. You'll be all right there. The problem is when you selected it and you moved it from, when you moved it over slightly, it jumped to the, it snapped to one of those things. So now while you're here, instead of going back and forth, just double click inside and you can, there you go. Now do it from here. Perfect. There you go. There you go. Looks great. And now, all you'd have to do at that point then is to, you could rearrange those labels, and you can do, any number of things. You could, in the table itself, you could, use a different font for your headings, make them bold or whatever, or just leave them like this. I think that's perfectly fine. Just again, remembering all you're showing really are text entities at that point. They're combined into a table, but
I'm wondering if I should cut this line off here.
That's, well,
Probably not, but it does clutter things up a little bit.
yeah, I mean, yeah, I would probably, I mean, that easement exists now, right? It's they're part of that original thing. So this line or this property that you were showing, is this a partitioning of a larger piece? Is that what?
No, it's existing. I'm showing it as it is today.
Okay, so if we're coming down our property line to where we encounter this, see, I don't know what the powers that be want that dimensioned or labeled. I'm not sure exactly why they want that done. If it's to correspond to a description somewhere, then the original deed description is probably going to start up at that point where the actual center line hits the right-of-way line, not the corner of the property. But in terms of how it relates to this property, well, we're basically having a point of commencement at the corner. We're coming down the property line, and that's our new point of beginning right there above the 0 in the north 300523.
Right.
All right. So I don't know. I don't know that I would. I see your point. It might clarify. I think keep from, because you could say you could come down the property line, to the center line of an existing easement. That would possibly be.
Well, I mean, it makes it clear what L1 is referring to when you look at the drawing.
That's true. That's very true.
Drawing and say, well, is that the property line or is that the center line?
Yeah. And I would also, maybe consider flip-flopping the sides those two sets of labels are on as well, because that also tucks L1 on the inside. And the other label bearing and distance goes, it goes past the extent of that intersection. It spans the intersection. So it would be obvious it's referring to the property corner to corner. Okay, and looks like you also probably need to, yeah, you'll need to get that out of the way.
That must be in model space.
You are in model space, yeah. There you go. And then take that one up to the other side. Yeah, now make sure if you need to say none so that you don't accidentally snap it to something else, do so. There you go. All right. And then I just tuck L1 up underneath that one. Right in there. And take your L2 and pull it down there as well. And yeah, and keep in mind now that now our line will not be plotted. Your center line will be plotted. So it'll plot through that label. So if you need to reposition that Gibson adjoiner label a little bit more and split that, and then push that label a little bit off that center line.
The bearing and distance?
Yeah, see, because that, like, you're looking at exactly like what it's going to plot like. So I would move that adjoiner out a little bit. Are they?
The adjoiners
Is that
in paper space, so.
Oh, okay, I got you. Yeah, like that. And then then do this back in model space, do the same thing for the other. Okay. All righty. I think that's got you now. And you might want to, up there where your tables are, I don't know if you need to say that is for the center line of the AT&T easement, or you wouldn't have to, because L1, L2, L3, and C1, there's a correspondence between them. You could leave it just exactly like it is.
Yeah.
I think it'd be fine. One thing I do see, you've got, do you need to annotate the property along the route, the route 1/1/1?
Oh, yeah.
Right.
I do indeed. I'm glad
Yeah.
you noticed that.
Yeah, I was just thinking of it because I see there's a curve in there too. So see, that would be a nice place to have another line and curve table, and you could start that one. It's would say, L11 and C11 or whatever, and you could put that off to the right down below the north arrow.
Okay.
You could and you could probably do it all within, you're in model space here.
Right.
So you could go ahead and now I wouldn't want to, I think instead of auto annotating that, because you've individually annotated these other sides. So let's look at annotate. Let's look at the manual version of it. So line/curve table down toward the bottom, or down the midway, not all the way down. Yeah, come about midway up, right there. And let's go ahead and set the table position. Let's see if we do that one first. All right. And it says line or curve table. So if you type L for line.
Right, just hit an enter, right?
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah. Selected table has been activated. I'm not sure what that's going to do. All right, let's just maybe. All right, let's try it again. We didn't have a selected table. I'm not sure what. All right, let's go back to that same pull right, which is line and curve table, and let's see. Let's look at table defaults, and I think that's going to be. And these are the defaults, by the way, that were used back when we did the other one with the auto annotate. And you see the sequence numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for the curve options, and any kind of symbols. Let's see, what do we have for that's if you put a symbol around these labels like so. So we'll leave them alone. Text size, it's C is the prefix, L is the prefix. There's your 08 size. That's all fine and dandy. Label text, table, line, label text, label, table text. Oh, that's lab text. That's label text. That's the text layer that it goes on for the label. And then the table text, that's the layer it creates for the table.
Okay.
All right, so that's good. You can prompt for the label location, and that means it's going to ask you to pick, click all along the feature that you're labeling.
Okay.
For each one. That's if you do that one. If you don't, it'll go to the middle, and then you can reposition it afterwards. So I think it's a good deal. Now, to set the curve table labels, that's going to set, see, we have right now the curve table labels has, it says curve, radius, arc length, chord bearing, and delta angle. If those are acceptable terms with, when you're turning this in, or maybe you don't even need to do the delta.
Oh, I think we need to take the delta out of there. Look at those decimal points.
Oh, well, we could change that. We could change that setting so that it doesn't do that.
Giving 3-4 elements of the curve there.
Yeah.
So the curve can be solved easily.
I think that's all you're going to need. So, all right. So what you want to do is up there where it says set curve table labels, which is over to the right there, the right half of
there.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So if we set those, so if you click that, now that's what you want to look at. We've got, where's our delta? Oh, these are just, let me see. Oh, no, well, no, this will be, that's the labels and how wide we want the columns and all that to be for everything. I think down here is where we're going to control that. So if we don't want the delta angle, we just take it out like that. All right. And let's see, what else we have? How to label this automatic table update. Oh, there we go. So if we turn that on, then that will, if these lines change, it will update the table. If you leave it off, then once the table is generated, it's just text and you can move it. And I think that might be a good thing to leave off.
Okay.
Uh, label and bearings is correct. We don't need to total the distances. Use table. Use table entity. That means when you creates this, it's going to create that entire block as a CAD table, or it would make individual lines of text and individually drawn lines, so that you could change those all individually.
Okay.
Keeping it as a single entity should be fine. Pin the first table to the line curve label. There's no need to do that. That would take the first table item, which is that L1 or C1, and append it to the label, which would be out here. So that we don't want to do. So I think that would fix all of that as our defaults. If we said okay to that, and then if we also look at here, I'm wondering if just like we did on that other one. So if I take this table, line or curve table defaults, and we take this out here. Now, the reason it's not out there is because I picked, you see what I did was I took an existing one and it had that in there. Okay, so now we've got it off by the defaults. Okay, so now we should be able to, in here, what do we, all right, so we've got there's a little 20-foot or 1975 corner to corner, and looks like there's a little tiny one in there, right?
Yeah.
And then is that an arc?
I believe it is.
And then
Tangent, another tangent.
okay, so two tangents, an arc, and a tangent, possibly. I mean, it's really, the geometry is tiny in there.
Yeah.
And so I would say because of that, instead of having to try to fish around and get all of those little endpoints all the time, let's go ahead and we'll make that just like we did the AT&T center line.
Create a new layer.
Yeah, let's make a new layer and call that Route 11. Route 11. I don't know, ROW or R, something that, there you go. And
Make it a different color.
Yeah, it's not, it doesn't like your slash in the name. So go back and go ahead, just choose a color for it now, and then there you go. And then set it to now where it is, just click there. Just there you go. And maybe 1-1 would be fine. There you go. And then right away, there you go. And then make that current and set it to not plot also, which is right there. Perfect. Okay. And then we'll recreate that little piece as well. And that's correct. It's using Route 11. I'll go from there. Okay, to the endpoint of that one. As long as that's a tangent, there you go. Endpoint, and now, and yeah, we're just going to do, and to make sure, yeah, be careful, be very, very careful, because you're getting the endpoints of those square drawings. There you go. Zoom in and make sure you're at the endpoint of the line itself. I mean, you can pick back here.
Back here.
Yeah, yeah, but make sure the end point snaps. Move it back toward the heavy line. Keep coming back. Well, it's there you go. Now you see where the little red thing is shown up? That's the end point of that line. So click. And now you want to do the same thing, the end point of that heavy line, but you want to make sure you're on that looks, no, that's the intersection. So keep coming over right there. And then the 1975 is already labeled in your, so you don't need to do any more. You can finish that.
So hit enter.
Correct. Now, do a, before you leave that, go zoom way back in like that, because we need to set that.
Space. That's why the color didn't show up.
Go ahead. Say what?
I'm not in.
Yeah, you are. You're in the model.
Okay.
So if you zoom in, see what I'm wanting to do. If we zoom in like this, and then I'm going to do a regen to get the circle smoothed up as much as I can. And now, right now, this is tangent, 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 tangent is what we drew. There's that little tangent there. If this is an arc, whichever one is an arc, we need to hover and convert to an arc and then snap to the midpoint of the other drawn arc. Oh, no. Wait. We got some, whoa, what's going on here? Hang on. All right, so this is, let me see, this, and this is, we'll hang on a second. We select this, and this, if I move this, there we go. So I want to be at the midpoint of that, like that, right?
Yeah.
All right, so that part's the arc. And now you're sure this is a tangent, right? It's not an arc.
Right.
Okay. All right. So I think that's all you'll need for that. And then I would double, or just escape there, and then it's going to do it in that direction, in that order rather. So now I'll let you go ahead back to the annotate. You can do an auto annotate. Now also keep in mind, Michael, the next time you do that command on something, right now it says use line tables always for lines, and on the arcs tab it says use curve tables always. So you would need to set this back for when you're doing it for something else.
Okay.
And say, so, all right, so you can leave it like this for now to do the tables, and we'll say, okay.
Do we need to, starting table number 2, that's right.
Oh, yes. You want to start.
Table number.
Yeah, it's starting, it's not the number of the table, it's the next number of items, because you've got L1, 2, and 3. So it would start the lines with L4. So if you wanted to start like L11, 12, and 13 or whatever, it's just the starting number for the first entry in the table.
Okay. So hit okay.
Yeah, if you want it to pick up with 4 and 2, that's fine. Yeah, or you might want a bigger separation or anything. It's fine. All right, so now pick that little skinny line. All right, finish your selection. And where did it go? I zoom out. I think it might have taken where we, there I see. See how that worked?
Yeah.
And if that is,
can we just leave it there? Just move that curve table down?
yes, sirree. You just select that. And from that corner, I'm just going to take that and snap to that corner. And then I'm gonna, I think I might want to move this a little bit off. Let's say down to there. There we go. So now they're lined up. Let's take that just a skosh up to there. Okay. Up now, it still took that delta. All right. So remember how we did that was going up to your annotate menu. And we went down to the line curve table and go back up right there. And we edited the table properties. We pick it. We choose that one. Yep. And we take that 5 out of the delta angle. Don't make it Z. There you go, like that, and say okay. All right. Now, one other thing that I would probably do is up here in this part is oh, come on. What's going on here? Let me see. I was going to say I would want to scoot to have those decimals line up a little bit better. Let me see if this will do it this way. I don't know that it will. All right, if I want to choose that block to create or edit, it won't let me do it because it's not it's a system block. Well, then I would just leave it like that. I wouldn't worry about it. It's certainly clear, but okay.
Okay.
And now, I guess what you need to do next is to come back here and reposition. You know, I would maybe put C2 out here. L6 is fine like it is. I think the only thing I would do is just move C2 out there to, yeah, make sure you don't snap to anything else accidentally. So there you go. All right. All right, I think that's gotcha.
Okay, there's a lot of things like I need to clean up, but I can do that on my own.
Yeah.
I think.
Yep. Okay.
Okie doke. Okay.
And that is Route 1/1. Is that the way that state number? It's not Route 11 with a typo in it. I just want to make sure.
No, it's 1/1.
Okay. So, all right. Well.
And hit save.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and go ahead and go ahead and generate a plot, and you'll see, even though we can see those lines that were those skinny lines that we annotated, they won't plot. Yeah, so you can see up there the dashes along the route right of way.
Yeah.
So it's looking good, Michael.
Okay. So let me close this, go to the other job. Petty. Now, I started cleaning this up a little bit, moving the notes out of the way so that we could get this set up. But I changed the title to Final Plat.
Okay.
And here's what the property looks like. And originally I was going to plot it at 1 inch to 100 feet, but I think it's too small. I think it'll be too small at 1 inch to 100 feet. I think it probably needs to be maybe 1 inch to 50.
Okay.
Let me look at this plat for a minute. Yeah, I think that 1 inch.
Well, there's a way you can tell. You can get a good idea on this. Is if you look back over here on final plat,
Yeah,
um, like if we know, like this is our viewport, okay, and we can position that where we need it to be. And let's say we positioned it, say here, and we've got enough to go around. Well, let's see, maybe you're going to need some note space over there. So we'll come down to like, that's about all we have available to us, maybe. All right. So what you would do is select the viewport and make sure it's unlocked. I see down here on the status bar, it's locked, and it's in its properties. I see that it says display locked. So I'm going to make it unlocked for a minute, and I'm going to double click inside it. And then I'm going to zoom extents and just sort of get a sense of where that's going to get centered, okay? And then with that centered in that area, I'm going to come over here back to the properties, and I'm going to set these different, I got to double click out of it and then select it and go back to its properties. And now, because it says custom,
yeah.
I'm going to choose here to be, say 1 inch equals 50. Now, 1 inch equals 50 would be,
That's not going to work.
well, it won't work certainly at that orientation or that size. So I'd have to then stretch it out.
How about
So
1 inch to 60?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking is. So you can just go back until you, and you would set this in the standard scale box. And all right, so there's not one in there that says 1 inch equals 60. So you would have to do that. Let's call it, I wanted to do a custom. Custom scale, there we go. So the custom scale, so 1 to 50 is at 0.02. And we're going to make it 1 to 60, which is 0.01. 1667. Now that's not exact right now, but for now we're just getting a sense of how this is going to fit. And I'll change that number in a minute and show you where we do it. So, is that enough if we squeak it out a little bigger, maybe make this a little smaller on this side? You'd have to sort of tweak that around. Now I also see that we're not seeing those lines in here. Right. And so I'm going to double click inside of that and take a look at that. And I can tell you what's going on with that is that we've got some lines that are, you see this column now is the current viewport freeze and thaw. And if I click in that column, it's going to sort. I'll click again. So it puts all the frozen ones at the top. So these lines are all within that viewport that I've double clicked in are frozen. So, any of those that you want on, and I'll let you click on the ones you want.
Well, boundaries for sure.
All right. And the reason they are frozen probably is either they were when you copied or created it, or there's another setting when you create a layer, just like over on the model tab, there is a setting when you do that that's called new viewport visibility, and it's this next column right here. So you're saying, okay, so if this were set to, if this value right there on the right hand side, new viewport was set to frozen. That means if I make a new viewport, I want that to automatically come in as viewport frozen. Or if you leave it as on. So it's just sort of what happens when you make a new viewport. So looks like that was not what caused it, but that's something that you could check and see. All right, so now there's that. All right, and now we'll worry about the text sizing here in a minute. Now when you rolled your mouse, you changed the scaling because we haven't locked it yet. Okay.
Right.
So if we see, what was there? Scale was 0.01667. We'll fix that in just a minute. It's still not. That's still too big.
Well, actually, that last one, 1 to 100, looks about right.
Okay. Well. Right to 100. There you go. Now, keep in mind, the edges of the viewport. Now you've got some, it's not that you're only allowed to draw over here. You still got this white space that you can still, draw in. So you could even, this could even be, let's see what an 80 would give us. One of my baby is 0.0125. Custom scale 0.0125. All right, so that would really, let me get there and just pan it. Double click back out. I'll grab this and make that a little bit so I can get some. If I need to get some things from model space around there. So, you could decide that may still be too big. And you want to make sure you've got enough room to pick up annotations and things like that are in the model space. So you would pull this out, give yourself as much room as you could. And then when you pull your notes back in, your notes can overlap the edge of that because they're in paper space and this is in model space. So now this is at 80, but is that too big? I don't know what all you're going to be putting on here.
Yeah, I think it probably is. I think it probably needs to be 100 maybe.
Okay, so let's go ahead and put it back to 100. So that's really how I set about doing these when I'm putting these in place. Is I go and sort of look at those and unlock this viewport and then play around with that till I do a zoom extents, get it in the center, and then you can you can when you're there, you do a zoom extents or whatever, you get it in the center, and I just sort of roll it in and get it positioned like I like it. And then if I click back out and I select it, and if I see it happens to be at something close to a nominal scale, I'll change it, or I'll just sit here and I'll leave it centered, and then I'm going to change it to be any one of those given nominal scales. Then I'll make sure that my annotation scale matches it. And then once I'm good with that, so that sort of lets me get a sense of it, how it fits on the page. Once that's all done, then I'm going to set my display locked as yes. And so now, if you double click inside and move around, you're no longer changing that scale now.
Right.
All right, so how to set that scale? If you notice, there was no 1 inch equals 60, 1 inch equals 80.
Right.
Well, the way you set those scales is There's several commands. It's easiest if you're in model space. I think if you go to, let me see, do you have to be in model space? Yeah, I think so. If you're in model space, you see this guy right here, this annotation scale list on the
Yes.
status bar. If you right click that, it brings this up. Now again, there's other ways to bring this up, but that's the quickest and easiest for me. And you can just add, you can take away and you can add, do all these different things. Now here's what gets really, really confusing, and I really hate this about the way they do it. But you see the ones that we as surveyors and engineers are used to. We say 1 inch equals 40 feet.
Yeah.
Well, when we talk about that casually, we call that 1 to 40.
Right.
But that's not really 1 to 40. That's 1 to 480, because it's 1 inch to 480 inches.
Okay.
Okay. And so when you look down here as these ratios, 1-40, you see that one? Well, that's the way AutoCAD considers it. It looks as 1 inch equals 40 feet. It's not really true. If we were doing metric mapping, it wouldn't, we would still have a true ratio. So it's a little bit confusing. That's why I like to use these ones that are 1 inch equals and they're spelled out.
Right.
Okay, so 1 to 40 here in model space is entirely different than 1 to 40 in paper space, because this one would be 1 inch is to 40 inches, or 1 foot is to 40 feet. Whereas when you're in paper space, because you have set, the units of this thing, of this sheet, are now in inches, and that's if I look at my page setup manager and I look right here, that see, I'm sitting at inches. So 1 inch equals, that's just that's a plot scale there, but the definition of this paper space is in inches. In that case, 1 inch equals 40. It's one of these units, which are inches now, equals 40 of the drawing units, in which case it's the same as 1 inch equals 40 feet. So that's why those numbers line up and they don't work, but it really gets confusing to people who are trying to keep track of that stuff mathematically. So anyway, back to here where we set these lists is you can say, get rid of these. You can modify them, change their designation. If they're not in use, well, you can do this purge or a delete. So right now I'm looking at all this. I see there is no 1 inch equals 60 feet. So if you want to do one, we just simply say add, and here's where you get the chance to control. So the name appearing in this list, and we're going to follow that same convention. 1 inch space equals space 60 feet, which means one paper unit is 60 drawing units. And that's why you got those 1:60, 1:4. That's why that happened.
Okay.
But we don't worry about that. So now I've added the 60, and we would add, say, another one, 1 inch equals 80 feet. Did I get yeah, there's a space there. And I'll make sure.
Is that like a setting that will continue in all drawings?
No, this is per drawing, but it comes with a pre-built set. Okay, so if you find one that we've always been able to come down here and usually find something within this 20, 40, 50, whatever range that will suit our needs, that are nominal. So if you don't see it, though, is where you have to change this thing. So now let's see here, where did my new ones go. There's my 60 and 80. So I'm going to take this one, move it up into that. Into that little cluster of labels so that I can see them where I expect to find them. So that should be good. And I'll say, okay. So now if we were to, ever need to change this, we would go down here and then find the one we want to use. Okay.
Right.
And you would also see now that back over here, our settings, we would see our list would show up. Let's see, get to the 1 inch equals. There's our 60 and 80.
Yep.
Okay. And let's see, we'll take that 1 to 100. That's its standard scale mathematically. So that part's there. It's locked, so it's set the way we want it to set. Now, back to here, because we have decided we're going to be at 1 inch equals 100. Our text is all over the place size-wise. Okay,
Yep.
so we need to change that. Now we've got, it depends on whether we're using annotative text or not. And what I'm going to do is change this to be, to match what I expect it to be in my paper space. So I'm going to be at 100. So that's going to reset my line scaling and any text that was annotative. And I don't know that any of those things are annotative. I don't think they are. That would have been here, configure, general. Yeah, see, I'm not using annotative scaling right here for my points and such. So that part's okay. All that means is we just have to rescale these points when we draw the points, when we label the points. Then, so you're going to control yours the way you typically would up here under settings, drawing setup. You would set that to be 100. There's your 0.08s, and that should be fine. We'll say okay. And then any new points you create should be at that proper scaling, as long as, we'll go back to C and find this thing, this serve point number. We'll make sure that those are set to 1, and they're not. They're set to 39, and I don't know what keeps causing that to happen. There's something somewhere in the there's something in that drawing template. There's some definition of that block that keeps blowing that up, and I don't know what that is. I can't find it. But for now, if we've changed that, and I would say, easiest thing to do at this point is to erase all of these points. We'll purge that block definition, and then we will redraw the points. Okay. And now at this stage, I don't want to erase any points out of the drawing yet, but all of your points in your drawing correspond correctly to the points in your CRD?
As far as I know.
Okay. And is there anything special about these? Like, have you changed the drawing description, but not the CRD description, anything like that?
No.
Okay, so we can just erase these and redraw the points, correct?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, so I'll let you go ahead to the points menu. And let's erase points. Okay. And we'll choose, we have to tell it how to choose. We'll choose from the screen. So S for that. Select the entities, just type all, or you can, yeah, I would just type the word all. That way if you got any points way off in the corner. So there you go. I'll hit enter one more time. And delete them from the coordinate file. No, you want to keep them in your coordinate file. Now, what do you want to delete? The symbols, the attributes, or both? We'll take both. So now there's your drawing, and you want to keep it. Now you are using that 2-KAC- drawing. So if you need to save it to something else, make sure you're aware of which drawing you're in here. I can see there.
Okay.
Or I'm sorry, no, you're in the right drawing file, but wait a minute, what's going on here? Warning, coordinate file not found. Looking for that one, but your coordinate file is set correctly. I think that's because of the point history file is why you got that warning. So I think you're fine. All right.
Okay.
Yeah, so let's go to the points menu now and just draw locate points. And if you want, if you want them all, and look at your layer name, be careful of your layer name. You're on your AT&T easement right now. If you want to put these on different layers based on their category, then that's a good, we'd have to put this in by range. Otherwise, we can just draw all the points.
Well, no, I think they have to be on different layers.
Okay. Do you know which ones go where?
Well, the low numbers, like from 1.
All right, now, well, that starting point number, that's only if you're creating a new point. That's the next number it's going to use.
Okay.
So you don't need to worry about that one. When you're drawing existing points, you don't need to worry about that. Now, there may be something that could be helpful here as well, Michael. Do you remember working with point groups?
I've never worked with point groups.
Well, this is where is like, well, let's cancel this and show you a couple of things here. We'll cancel that as well. If we look at our points, and I'm just going to list them all. Now I've got a bunch of points here. And I'm looking at the descriptions is really what I'm interested in. I've got PKNS, was it PK nail set or something?
Yeah.
And okay. And then a number 3, rebar found, maybe.
Yeah.
And then I've got a bunch of geometric points like center line of the road, center line, point of curve, point of compound curve, et cetera, et cetera. So based on what those are, and here's some points that don't have any descriptions, and that's okay. Here's some that say trees. Here's a bunch of radius points. So that's the center points of those curved geometries, which you may or may not want to do. So now I've got 75 total points listed. Oh, here's something else I can look at with that same command. If I choose my range, I check right here, then when it comes down to the bottom, I'm going to get, oh no, that's not what I wanted. Sorry, one more. Choose the range. Well, I thought it would. I thought it would give me a list of point number gaps, but I guess not. Unless that is this one, but I don't think so. Let's look at that and point notes. No, well, at least it gives me the mins and maxes and the number of points. You can get that list separately. I could have sworn. Yeah, if I say it's not critical, if I can see it, we can find it later. But now if we take a look at these points to do something with these groups, I'm going to go to this point group manager.
Let me ask you a question.
Sure.
Is there a way to click onto that figure, that polyline there, and identify which points belong to it?
No. So if I want to say that, tell me which points are on it. No, there's no way to really to really get that. Now I see a couple of things here too. I've got something here. There's a little T.
Point for that curve.
Well, it's not a point. It's a line, and it has. Let's see, what is its? It's got a length. I mean, it's a polyline, but what is its? Yeah, see, it's a line of 0 length. So that's a kind of an error. I don't know how you wind up getting it in there. It was just shrunk down to maybe the yeah, see, the grip was done this. Now I made it a huge one. But in any case, you get those little stray conditions. I've got a couple of, and they're lines of 0 length. I'm going to take a trip here to our drawing cleanup, and let's clear this. Now let's remove 0 length and fragmented lines. And see, it took 2, it found those 2, got rid of them. Okay, good. All right, so now we're done with that. We do have a figure here that you created points along, or you could, if you did not.
I did. Those all have points.
Yeah, but see, you can either, when you create that figure, you can do that points from entities, which is the way you typically would do that. And it walks around and picks up all the corners of that figure. And also gives you the option to put midpoints and center points, radius points of curves. But you can also simply, draw locate points and snap to individual places, or you could have points drawn on something else and then move those points from that corner to this corner. So, but I mean, I do know what you're saying. And yes, there is a way programmatically for them to say, to look at that figure and say, well, hey, there's a series of points that go along with that figure, because I know that because under my settings, I say link line work with points right here on the right. So there is a mechanism to do that programmatically. But
yeah,
as
Carlson,
Carlson,
I asked that was because the Terra model has a command that allows you to do that.
Yeah. So the question is though that
well, I think
even
the
though
best way to do this would be to draw locate points and then go to do it by screen and then just go to each endpoint. That would be slow, but then I would be sure of getting the right points.
well, you could, or you could still do that. Where am I? Create points from entities. Okay, yeah, it would still
be all new point numbers. I'm going to have multiple point numbers for the same point.
Well, I know, but the same the same thing would be is if you went around and did draw locate points and you snapped to those endpoints, you would still have multiple points there as well, right?
No, it would give you the same point number, wouldn't it? I'm pretty sure I've done that before.
Well, I mean, only if you're, well, let's do this for a second. Let's first draw all the points. And I'm going to change these to just be a little plus mark. And I'm just going to put this on a layer name called points. And we'll draw all. Okay, so now there are all my points. So if I were to draw locate points, see, now we're back up to, there's my next free point number. So if I were to screen pick, and I want to go to the endpoint of that right there, well, there's that point
Okay,
3.
I see what you say. It's going to give it a different number.
Yes, that's correct. So I have a 0.62 and there's a 0.350. So that doesn't necessarily solve anything.
See, there's another thing that frustrates me about this drawing. You see those elevations? When I started
Yes.
out this drawing and I picked point defaults, I clicked off elevations.
Correct.
And every time I get out of the drawing, it automatically goes back on. So that every time I plot points, the damn elevations are back there.
Well, let's see. All right, so that is off for that. The nodes. Oh, see, we do have locate on the real z-axis, so we're telling it to use, if it has an elevation or even if it's 0, to put them there. That's fine, but this is simply for the prompting and the labels to make sure that's off. Okay, so if I set that, and if I did I'm going to draw locate points. I'm going to start this at 10,001 just so I can erase it later. I will screen pick a point right there, and it's I'll call it test, and there it is, and it did not ask me for the elevation, so I'm done. Now let's try this. Let's save this. We'll even close that. We'll come back to that. There's that point. And if I draw,
locate all the points again and see if the elevations disappear.
Okay.
Well, look at point defaults and see if it's turned itself.
Yeah, I want to see if it's resetting it. Okay, so it's okay there.
Yeah.
And if I were to draw locate points, and if I did another one, just screen pick, I'll put right there as well, and I'll call that one test as well. Now it did, look what it did though, size wise.
Yeah.
Are we still at 100? We are at 100. And if I block edit this, I can tell by looking at them that they're too big. Right there it is. That should be 1.
Hey, now show me how you did that again, because I'm afraid I'm going to need to do that on every drawing.
That B edit, block edit. Well, wait a minute. I'm in the wrong field. Let's see. Down here at the command line, I just typed B edit.
Let me write that down. B edit.
Yeah, and that's where we would.
And then what are you clicking on the B edit?
And it brings up a block to create or edit.
Yep.
So I would choose that SRV PNO or N01. That's survey point 01. Now here's 02 NO as well. Let me take a look at that one. I think that one looks okay. Yeah, see that stays, the height is 1. All right, so that one's all right. And it's just because that particular point has been the block definition has been messed up in this drawing. So if we do,
Messed up in every drawing. I mean, this happens with every drawing I have.
yeah, it seems to have been.
I think Carlson
So,
has sold me a lemon.
Well, I don't know what there's something else going on there, and I don't know what, because
I
I don't.
like I'd have to uninstall and reinstall, and that would be a real pain in the butt.
Well, no, well, no, I think there's something. If see, if I take this drawing utilities now, and if I need to purge that block, because that's the block that's messed up, and so that block is that one right there. I'll close that. And just as another quick spot check, I'm going to look for number 9. That's just a symbol. That one's fine. All right, those we looked at already. There's still one. Yep. So that's fine. All right, now with 100, if let's go back and look at my defaults again. That's still off. Okay. So if I draw locate points, we'll just draw all. And now they're all the right size. The elevations are off.
Okay.
And I can erase these 2 points from the screen. We'll just select those 2, and yes, we'll take them from the coordinate file as well, and we'll get rid of attributes as well as symbols. All right, now, so whatever is causing that block redefinition, like I say, I don't think it's a Carlson thing, Mike, because I don't have that happen on my installations here. There's something about either a command that got interrupted, it was somehow or another done wrong at some point in the past, or since this happens so often, I'm inclined to think it has to do with the drawing template. And see that right there?
Yeah.
There is something
and you
causing.
went through and fixed all of those the other day. Of course, this wasn't from one of those templates after you fixed them.
Okay.
So I wonder if we can just delete that and bring the other one in.
What, delete this
Seal.
this stamping me? Yeah, oh yeah. Yeah, if we do that, we'll just actually the one that's there can simply be redefined. If I insert
You want me to find that?
Yeah. There it is. Okay. All right. And now we make sure we have it checked on to specify for the insertion. We uncheck for the scale, uncheck for the rotation. Okay. And we say insert. And then now it's going to tell us that it's already in there. Do I want to redefine it? That's the key. I'm going to say yes. And see what it did right there?
Yeah.
It immediately read the disk definition. And so now I can just press, oops. Well, Sorry, I missed that. So now, yes, I will redefine it. And so I have to click a spot, but then I can, just select it and delete that new one. And as long as I click it into place after it's read that new definition, then that should stay like it is. Now, why?
What was the command that you did that
To
you
draw?
inserted?
Yeah,
Draw.
to the draw menu and insert, or you could simply type insert. Okay. And that's the same command you would use that if you didn't have that block in your drawing.
Okay.
All right. So the block keeps getting that redefinition, and this seems to happen when we change these scales, and I don't know why that would be. There's no reason for it to be. Anyway.
Okay. Well, you've got me in good shape here. That gives me plenty to work with on this drawing.
Okay.
Could we do a location inset?
Yeah.
Um,
But just to finish up the discussion on that, the point groups,
yeah.
and I won't belabor that or go put you through that whole exercise, but you go to that points menu and go to the point group manager, and then you can create groups. Let's say if you wanted to create one that said all boundary points, and
Yeah.
then you could, so you would at that point say create, and you would call it boundary, and then you would add up there in the group name where it says new group.
Boundary.
Mm-hmm. And then down here and below is you would uncheck this include all, and you would say, well, let's say by description, I don't even know. Let's see, set from the list. What do we have as boundary points? Here's ours. I'm going to sort by description. So I've got a radius points or radius points. I don't want to use those necessarily. So there's your like number, anything that starts with a number sign.
Yeah.
Looks like that's your rebars. So I would say, I'm going to take this, for instance, and because I've also got 3s, 4s, and 5s, I'm going to make that a question mark instead of a 5 directly. And so I will save that. And if I look at that, why did it? Well, it should be showing up. Where is it? Let's not make a list. So, all right. If I set, let's just say that one. So that's gotten number 5 RBF, 5, 5, 5, 5, 5. Those are 5s. If I edit that definition, it was this. Should that work? And it's not working. If I change that to be, and I'm doing a wildcard character, Mike. So if I use an asterisk instead, even that's not. How about if I just use an asterisk RBF? All right, well, it's not. They're wildcard anyway. The wildcard stuff's not working exactly right. Now there's your number 3, your 5. So it's basically anything that starts with, oops, sorry, it's a new group. Anything that is anything that starts, any point description that has RBF in it, no matter what it starts with, that's what that asterisk means. Starts with anything, but it ends with RBF, that's in boundary. Now, if there's another set of descriptions, I just simply put a comma, and I might put,
FP.
What was it?
FP. F is in Frank, P is in Paul.
Okay. And is that a starts with or ends with or what?
It's fence post. That's the description.
Okay, so just by itself. So if I save that like that, so now I've got this and the 3 fence posts. So you see what I'm doing is I'm building a set of points called boundary.
Yeah.
And you would do the same thing, like if you have, let's make one called control. And you would uncheck that. You might set it by description, or you could pick them out of the drawing. That's what some of these other things here is, drawing select, et cetera, et cetera.
There are only 2
So,
points, but I can give you the point numbers for them.
Okay, we'll just do it here out of the list.
1 and
All
5,000.
right, so 1 and 5,000. All right, and we'll save that. So now I've got, well, it didn't seem to be very happy. Let's see here. 1, 5,000. Oh, I gotta uncheck this, sorry. So now there's my control points, there's my boundary points. You know, you could have easement points, you could have center line of road points, you can have anything that you wanted to do as a separate group. All right.
Can a point be in more than one group?
Yes, yes, it certainly may.
Okay.
It can be in several points. And then when you're doing that, anything that asks you for points, with list, draw, locate, you know, anything that you want to show, erase by, whatever. Let's say just looking at list. Well, you can hit all, you can type in a range, or you can have that point group and say, well, we'll just look at boundary points. All right, so it knows it's going to be using a group, and there they are. Okay. Same thing as if you even did draw, locate points. So if I wanted to change now, I'm going to set to use this circle, or let's even do it points and wipeouts. That was this one. And I'm going to put these points on a layer called boundary points, or even just on boundary, whatever one you want to use. And I'm going to draw right here, draw point group. And I'm going to choose boundary. Okay. And so now it redrew those boundary points. Which ones were they? There it is. There's a, which point is that?
There are 2 points there.
That's point 30 and point 14, is it? Or some kind of
214.
Yeah, 214. You know, but see, it has no description.
Right.
And it has a symbol of that little plus mark, but the circle with the wipeout in it is sitting on top of it. That's why you can only see those little things sticking out. All right. So anyway, that's a way that once you've decided on where your you know, which points are which, like you can just go into that that point group and even boundary. If you edit that, you can even say, if we uncheck, no, I can't, I don't want to, I guess you have to have built it from a list to begin with. So by description, but anyway, you could take a look at those points, and you can add, you know, if you built on top of this, you could select from from a selection of points, select from a list, any way, you know, you can modify that set of boundary points and then use that as a shortcut instead of having to remember point numbers and ranges of point numbers that you want to have certain characteristics. You can do it using point groups. Okay.
Okay.
So that I'll leave to your future edification.
Location and set.
Okay, let's go back to that. Oh.
Okay, the two parcels that we're looking at
Okay, yep.
are these two.
Uh-huh.
And actually, there's only one parcel. They've been merged together.
Right. All right, so there's a couple of things, and again, you're looking at the flood maps. But you know, what do you want to show in your location map, or in your, it's like some of the others that we've done. Like, do you need the aerial imagery?
No.
Okay.
So I can back out a little bit.
Well, yeah, go ahead. Yeah, see, how far out do you need to be before you've established your vicinity? Like, you don't need to show the state outline, obviously, or the county.
Well, if I showed the subject parcels in like that much area.
Yeah. So sort of get it to the size that you want it to be, and get that centered in this view. Now we're going to be clipping this view when we get it in our drawing, but you know, you're going to have, you want it to be out far enough away that where you've got some identifiable street intersections that you can come from, so that they can figure out you know, where your information is. If it were, let's say, if these two parcels were part of a well-defined subdivision boundary, for instance, you know, you could highlight that and show where it is within that particular location. So that's not generally what we ever have. We don't generally, you know, people aren't necessarily aware of subdivision boundaries on the ground. So, you know, we would get this where we want it to be and sort of get in the middle and then grab that information. But keep in mind, the only thing that we're going to have in whatever we save here is whatever we're showing. We're showing this, the hill shaded topography, and we've got flood boundaries. Okay. What we had before over in our drawing, what do we have there? We've got well, we had nothing in particular on this one, but it came from something. Is your site on state plane, by the way?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so there is another approach. Now you may well need this flood information, although we're nowhere near. Okay, so if you don't, so I would say maybe we would find a better source for this than the flood map boundary, and that part is simply, I think, Google, because you're going to get your street intersections.
Google Maps.
Yeah, and I mean, just, well, yeah, but we're not going to run Google Maps. We're going to let Carlson do it for us. Okay, so so we're going to let's go back to here, and if we are like so in our model space, and if I want to load in the surrounding imagery for that, I'm going to go to my GIS menu. Let's see. Do you have the GIS module, do you not?
Yeah.
All right, so if I switch to that module so that I can get to this images, I want to place either a Google Earth image. I think that's all I need. See here a second. Let me do this. We're in our file. We're going to call this vicinity imagery dot png. Save that. Now I want to pick it from the screen or a map. Since I am in state plane, I'm going to go ahead and say screen, and I'll take it from, say, here up to about there. And what do I want? Do I want the aerial, the road map?
I just say the road.
Yeah, that's, I think, exactly right. And if we have a high is not available, medium should be more than fine. Place it in the background. It's going to go on location map image as a layer. Say okay. And let's see what happens with that. Okay, so there it is. It's actually in the background. We've got the roads identified. Let's see, it's supposed to be in the background. Let's try send that to the back. Okay, so that is there. It will line up with your boundary. Your boundary, of course, is yellow right now, so it's a little bit odd to see. But how you would control that is once here, inside of this, we double click, and we're going to make sure in our current viewport, we had that, what was it called? Location map image. We will freeze in that one. So now you're back to that. But up in this one, is that a viewport or not? It is just a polyline, so we can make that a viewport. We take this paper space word and just put it over here for a second. And I'm going to type viewport by entity, and it will be that right there. Okay, so there's that one now, and it's zoomed in to its entirety, and it's not locked. So I'm going to now double click, find where we are. Is that the name of our, I forget where we are.
Yeah, that's where we are. The boundaries aren't showing up very good.
Right, because they're yellow here. So what I want to do is here, whilst I'm there, the boundary, Bopendary. See, we missed one. All right, so that boundary inside of here, inside of this, I'm going to make it show up. And let's take this out enough to put this in the background. And we will set that. Let's see if we can find it. Let's see if it works on a standard scale. Typically 1 inch equals 2,000 feet, which would be 0.005. That's a little too, let's try 1 inch equals, let's see, 1 inch to 5,000 feet is 0.0002. 0.0002. It's a little too big. 1 inch, 1,000, so 0.001. 0.001. Probably not bad. Two is, oh, that should be about right, don't you think?
Yeah.
All right, so we'll make that as a 1 inch equals 2,000 feet. We'll position and then select and lock. And let's see, clipped, yes. Display locked, yes. All right, so that's there. Now we would turn our points off. We don't want to see within here all those little point layers. So we would says turn off that, and your boundaries because they're on separate. Now we've got the line type is the same as it is over here. but within that, I think I would just leave that solid. So I would take that boundary where it says phantom over here under the VP line port or VP line type. I would just call it continuous. And so that would look like that. Maybe make it heavier. Again, while I'm inside it, find it on the VP side of the columns, the line weight. Am I still in the right? That's what I thought. I was in a different one. Okay, so I would change its line weight to maybe a little bit heavier. All right, so I've got that. You've got your street names. You know, that could serve as exactly that. Now I would draw. Now remember that this thing that we had here, that was a viewport, just like this one. Now we turned it into a viewport. It used to be a polyline, so I need to get another polyline back there. This viewport could be viewable. In fact, it would be right now. It's on a layer called boundary. If I put that, I will make it on a layer called viewports. This one is on this layer called viewports, and there's its color is by layer. Why is it black? It should be. Mono grayscale. Display print style, so that should be okay. I'm going to see why that is color by layer. That is color by layer. Oh, I see why. If I bring that to the front, I still don't see that red showing up. Well, it does. Let's see if that's the viewport. Right to the front, and this, if I choose, well, I do not. That's a viewport. If I select that is a viewport and a polyline. All right, so what I want to do is to find that polyline. I'm going to put it on title block line work. Its line weight should be by layer. Well, There it is. It's bounded, so it'll show up. It was just a matter of it. It's a matter of it's zoom refresh. I think you'll be fine with that. So then you could move this back to here. Make sure it is draw order front. Where did that go? All right, so it should be there. Let me save this. In fact, let me go completely out of that. Come back into it. Where? How do you get into your that version? Okay. We're starting to get a little bit of a memory leak is what it was looking like. So when this comes up, all right, now you are,
What happened to the word site?
well, that's what I'm trying to figure out. See, it's there. It's just it's a matter of the way it regens. And I think we're getting a lot of, Zoom decides it doesn't need to show it to us because it's trying to save memory with that Zoom linking. So I think, anytime it were to generate a PDF or something, it will recreate that for us. Now, is that sufficient for is that the right size for your location map? You think
Yeah, I think
those
that's
road?
great. You can't read the road names anymore.
Well, you could do the same thing like we did here with this word site. If I could find it, there it is. We could simply, copy that out from here to, one's here, one's here, one's here, and then what was that? Waterside Drive. I double click that. Come on, I want to edit. All right, get on the contents. Waterside Drive. Or let's just make it DR, Waterside DR. And this one is State Route 9/5.
Well, what's funny is that road doesn't go there. It stops. It stops right there. It's a dead end road. Now, historically, it may have gone that way in ancient times, but it sure doesn't go that way now.
Well,
so I wouldn't label that as anything. Uh, I would label the one to the south down here
As
as,
State Route 95.
yeah, which is also called Mission Road, as North Mission Road.
Okay. So
If the county
just,
says something to me about it, I'll tell them to argue with Google Earth.
yeah, I think they'll find. So I would then take this one and just delete it, that label rather. Now this, we need to rotate. And we'll move it. Let's just put it up top like that. And then this one. Now, Mike, I'm assuming that once we're off of once we're off Zoom and all that, that stuff, you know, you're not going to be having the same visibility issue. All right, so if we regen all, so it'll say North Mission Road, Waterside Drive, and your site. I think that should nail it down, right?
Yep.
Okay. Now, and that was on this GIS menu module rather, and then under images.
Do that again.
I'm sorry, when I went, yeah, the GIS module.
Okay.
Which I can either choose from the toolbar there or choose from settings, Carlson, menus, GIS menu.
Okay.
And then under images, and I said place Google Earth image.
Okay.
And when it did that, it let me, now again, I want to do that from here, from my geometry, so that I can then show it, you know, how far out I need to make the coverage, so I can you know, pick a point. But it's going to ask you to name the image file. So this file has now been given a name, and it's in that subdirectory, and it's called location map imagery.png for portable network graphic. And it asked for a label or for a layer name, which we put it on location map image or whatever it was. What does it say? Layer is location map image, yeah. And brightness, contrast, fading, you can change all of that. Let's see if we made that like a 35 fade. Now here's the issue with that though, is that when we get here, let's see, I need to actually move this off here a little bit further and rotate that more like that. Okay, so to be able to see that mapping in the background on my location map, I have to have that layer has to be thawed while I'm in that viewport. Just like in this viewport, if I don't want to see it, it has to be frozen. But it has to be thawed globally for me to be able to turn that on and off and have it show up in some places and not in others. And what that means is when I'm over here, this is always in my way. That's not helpful. So I would very much probably like to freeze this layer while I'm working over here, okay? So if I freeze this layer, actually get the edge of it. All right, so I've now frozen that layer, so I can go about my business and work as usual. Here's why I'm pointing this out, Michael, is that if we do it this way, and we freeze that layer globally out here in the model space, then when I'm here in my paper space, it's gone. So I have to remember to be here, or of course you can do it from any place. You could be over here and do it. You have to remember to, when you're ready to plot, come back here and find that location map image and thaw that layer. And so now it's on here, it's off here. We've already controlled all that, but now it's back to being on here.
Right.
And you can see it's sort of, you know, it's gray. That was there. Let's see if I can get this a little bit better. I'm not sure that's better. Too dark. Probably best just to live with the defaults, I think. Anyway, try it and see. Doing that 50-50, 0. Zero fade. Show yes, show yes. Transparency, no. All right, if I say show no, I may have found a way to set this up. You don't have to worry about that. No, let's say I still need to. Still need to have that. I think what that show does is it turns it off. Turns the layer. No, it doesn't. It just takes the image. So if I image, yes. All right, so it's going to be shown. All right, so I think the only way we've got around that, Mike, is to we can freeze it while we work, but just remember to go back and turn that layer, to thaw that layer globally when you're ready to plot. One last check on that. I don't think if we turn it off, we can work. It's still there, it's thawed. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. It still turns it off globally. If I turn it off, let me see here. If inside location map image, it's off globally, but see, I don't have there's not a viewport on off, there's only a viewport freeze. So yeah, when we want it on, when we're ready to plot, Let's see, when we're ready to plot, we have to have that on thawed, and our current viewport is thawed. Okay. Oops, REA. There it is. Okay. And then there's our words. All right. So that gets you there. What next, sir?
I think that's it for today.
Okay. Well, that should give you some things to work on. Last couple of things to keep in mind. Well, like we just talked about that. If this is in your way, and I suspect it will be if you've got any amount of work to do over here, freeze it, but don't forget to thaw it when you're back here ready to plot.
Right.
I would double check your legend.
Yep.
At the, you know, all of the typical things apply. And if this thing should blow up again with this block rescaling issue, you're going to go to the draw menu, insert, go ahead and find it on disk, which was, you know, whichever one you wanted, whether it's the bar scale or this one. And when it asks if you want to redefine the block, you will say yes, then just click a spot somewhere off to the side and it should recreate the ones that are blown up.
Okay.
Okay. So just with that, I will let you get back to those.
Okay.
And,
thank you, sir.
yep. And I've got this recorded. I will, I'll go ahead and post, you know, I'll do the processing like we typically do.